Welcome back to Rebuilding and Recovery. My name is Tracy. I am a psychotherapist in long-term recovery. You guys can find out how to work with me down below the video, as well as where to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. If you are one of my people, I greatly appreciate your support. And if you are new, I really hope that you will subscribe and find some benefits in this channel. So today, I'm going to be telling you guys about the time that I almost went down. I almost relapsed. So for a little reference, you guys, I am 9 years in recovery from heroin addiction. Here's why this almost relapse was so significant. It didn't happen at 2 weeks clean or 2 months clean, or even 2 freaking years clean. It happened at like 5 years in. I feel like that is important to note because I think it's very common to think at that point that you got this. But the thing is that you ain't never got this. It's never in the bag. Relapse is always a risk that will be there. Always, no matter how long into recovery you are. And I'm gonna tell you also, I was not triggered for the first few years in my recovery. It was not something that I white knuckled my way through. It was something that I had very little cravings through. I came face to face with dope probably a year into my recovery, and it did not bother me. I literally flushed it and did not have a problem with it. But when this happened, it was the only time in my 9 years of recovery that I truly almost went down. So let me take you back 4 or 5 years and tell you about what happened. So I was doing pretty well at this point in my life, right? I'm 4 or 5 years into recovery. I had gotten my bachelor's degree at this point. I had like a legit career going in the mental health field. I had just bought my own house for the first time. I had children. I was doing well. I was not experiencing cravings or anything. I was good. Everything was good until someone very close to me in my life relapsed. I'm not going to share names, obviously, because that's their business. I am sharing with you what I experienced. This is somebody that I see every single day, someone I'm very close to, and they relapsed on fentanyl. Now, back in the day, my drug of choice was heroin. Heroin is not around anymore. Today's version of heroin is fentanyl. So that is as close as you can get to relapsing on my drug of choice, right? So this person relapsed on fentanyl, and it took a toll on our relationship. They knew that I would not be okay with them relapsing. So instinctually, they tried to hide their relapse from me. So that brought in a lot of lying into our relationship, shadiness and lies and disappearing and arguments. But it's so funny when people try to hide it because it's like, come on, I spent 10 years in the game. I know what you're doing. You're not just tired, you're nodding out. So they're nodding out. I'm finding their paraphernalia, and there's all kinds of lies and shadiness going on, right? And that series of events triggered me like no other. It actually really surprised me that triggered me because, like I said, I'd been face to face with dope before and I flushed it. I did not have any desire to do it. I think in this case, it was the combination of the stress combined with the nodding out and whatnot. And it made me start to miss the blissfulness of being nodded out and not worrying about anything because I was so stressed out by this situation and by their behavior. I was very jealous of the ability to be blissed out and not worrying about anything. And on top of that, I started to kind of crave the adrenaline as well. So it wasn't just doing heroin that was addicting for me. It was the entire lifestyle. It was the chase. It was going to the city every day to get it. All of that was part of the addiction. And they were doing that, and I could see them doing that, and it made me miss it. And this is also someone that I used to use with 10, 15 years ago, back when I was in active addiction. So it was like they were reliving that part of our life again, but without me, with different people. And I think that made me feel jealous. It made me feel like I was missing out. It made me miss the adrenaline and the fun that we had together back in the day. And for the first time in my 4 to 5 years of recovery at that point, I wanted to use. I wanted to do it. And when I realized that I actually wanted that, that scared me so bad because I had a life at that point. Like I said, I had a career and a house and children. If I chose to live that life again, I knew damn well that I would lose every single one of those things that I had worked for. I had a lot to lose. So when I found myself actually wanting to use, I was scared. And I knew that I had to do something drastic at that point, or I was going to ruin my entire life again. Now, shortly after their relapse, they ended up going to the methadone clinic and getting on methadone in order to get off of fentanyl. So when I found myself wanting to relapse, I actually made the decision to go see a doctor. And the doctor recommended that I try MAT, medication assisted treatment. I had done MAT way back in the day when I was in active addiction, and it was not beneficial for me at that time, but this was a completely different situation. At this point, I'm someone in recovery that has been clean for a long time, and I am triggered, craving, and feeling like I'm going to relapse at any moment. So in an effort to avoid relapse, in an effort to keep my life and my house and my career and my children, I made the decision to participate in an MAT program. And I got on Suboxone when I was 5 years in recovery. And I was very upset with myself for that for a long time. I felt like it was a backslide. I felt like I had messed up. I just felt like, how in the world could I let myself get into the situation where I'm dependent on something again? And I struggled with even walking into that doctor's office for a very long time. Because I was so disappointed in myself. But over time, I started to realize that this was not a backslide. I'm an addict. I'm always going to be an addict. Even though I am in recovery, recovery is something that requires maintenance, and it requires maintenance throughout your entire life to avoid relapse. My recovery was in trouble, and I did what I had to do to make sure that I kept my recovery. I feel like I did the smart thing here because I didn't relapse. I didn't lose my career or my house or my children. I had a triggering moment and I got through it. MAT honestly saved my life. That's how I look at it. I firmly believe that if I had not pursued MAT, I would have relapsed. Maybe today I would be on methadone in the methadone clinic, or maybe I would be in jail, or maybe I would be dead. I don't know, but I know that those are the 3 outcomes that would have potentially happened if I would have relapsed. So I think this outcome is a lot better than that. And I cannot look at this as a backstep when it helped me to avoid that. This medication did not get me high. It satiated those cravings and allowed me to get to a better, stronger place mentally and in that relationship with the person who relapsed. So today, it's been, I think, close to 2 years since then, and I am in a stronger mindset. I do not feel that relapse is an issue. I do not feel any cravings to use whatsoever. And at this point now, I'm ready to leave this phase of my life behind me. So I'm going to be doing a very, very slow wean down. Please, you guys, don't fill the comments with a bunch of horror stories about your withdrawals and your detoxes and things like that. First of all, I don't mean to be rude, but I have done this many times before. I already know what to expect. On top of that, I just don't want to read everybody's horror stories so that they can get in my head and make me feel like this is going to be an awful experience. Let's just try to keep it positive. So I am going to be sharing that process with you. I am sure that I am not the only one who has used MAT in their recovery. I know I struggled to even find a calendar for the wean down process. So I am eager to share this experience with you guys. And my next video will be kind of describing my first step in the process. So that was my almost relapsed story. Do you guys have any stories like this? Did you guys experience anything like this so far into your recovery? Was anybody else, did you just like sail through the first years of recovery and then at 5 years in be like, oh, now I'm triggered? Or is that just me? Like I said, I really want this platform to be a safe place for everybody to share their experiences and to kind of get through this process together. And I want to share what long-term recovery is like, both the good parts of it and the hard parts of it. So that is why I'm sharing this with you. And I thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.